Drum roll, please. I think we're live. I see a live and
I see a live too. Okay.
Kevin.
Well,
We're
hi.
live.
I think it's probably we're going to wait for some folks to come in, but as people are coming in, just want to welcome everyone. We'll just give it a few more minutes before we get started. But thank you for being here and tuning in. We just wanted to take a minute and talk about this amazing new addition and give Tyra, our new scholar in residence, a big warm welcome, and also just give you all a chance to ask any questions if you have any questions, and especially if it's specifically about her role here at PTB and as far as, exam prep goes, or, maybe ethics or supervision, which is one of her specialties. All right. So
can people type in the chat where you're joining us from? Just while we wait for a few more folks to join?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Well, Tyra, as we wait for a few seconds more, or a few moments more, I'm just going to wait a few more minutes just to see. All right, here we go.
Canada. Woohoo!
All right, we've got someone from Miami. Awesome. Anyone else from anywhere else?
Where are you, everyone?
Where is everybody?
I'm in Portland, Oregon. Well, just outside of Portland, Oregon. And P.S., not on fire, not a war zone, just saying.
All right. Oh, Miami. That's right. Amazing. And I am here in Los Angeles. Yeah, well, I don't know if we should wait just a few more moments or not.
I think we probably can get started.
Let's get started.
So people will hop in as they hop in.
All right. Well, yeah, so this is Tyra Sellers, as everybody obviously already knows. And I just want to welcome Tyra to PTB. And I'm so excited to be working with you. I know we've been friends for a long time, and we have certainly sat at a table and worked side by side, but never on the same thing. So I'm so thrilled that our fun time can extend now to our professional roles as well. And I just figured this would be a great way to introduce you to some folks and let them ask you some questions about your role here and how, I don't know, how you're going to exam prep your way into PTB.
Well, thank you for having me at PTB just in general. Thank you for kicking this live off, and hopefully folks will be joining and we will party on with lots of questions. I will have to say, I have a little bit of a cold, everybody, so please bear with the coughing and the funky voice, but I had to look up what an AMA meant. So I'm super excited about the Ask Me Anything. But at first I was like, American Medical Association? I'm not that kind of doctor.
Medical role. Well, Tyra, before we open it up to the audience and before we open up to some of my questions, just in case there's anyone who isn't familiar with the breadth of your work, I don't know if there are any such people in the universe, but maybe they don't know some of the ins and outs. Maybe you can take a moment and just give us a quick introduction and tell the world, or at least anyone who's going to watch this or is watching this, just a little bit about yourself and how'd you end up here at PTB as a scholar in residence?
I literally don't know.
Weird, you just landed here.
Yeah, just one day I was like, by the way, I'm never leaving. Excuse me. So let's see. Okay, a little bit about me and my work. So I have been in our profession since the early 90s. So well before the BACB even existed, originally from California, and sort of got my start as a teenager and young adult working in group homes and respite care and things like that, and ended up at a great I believe they're still around, although they're probably significantly different. But at the time, a non-public school in California called Spectrum Center, where I had the pleasure of working with Dr. Ronnie Dietrich. If anybody knows, you know, he left us a couple years ago. And so that was a big loss for our profession, but super awesome guy. And I did clinical work. I was a paraprofessional, or now an RBT, but they didn't exist at the time. And kind of held a bunch of different roles: behavior specialist. I was a SPED teacher at that school, administrator, worked for school districts, public school districts, had my own company for a while, went back and got my PhD, and stayed. Hi, Lila from Daxta.
Why are you in Brazil or in the States?
Yeah, where are you?
Oh, where are you?
And so when I was getting my PhD, I never intended to go into academia. So I went right back into clinical work, where I worked at a large provider organization as a regional director over about 6 different states. And then I went back and did work in academia for a while. Oh, from New Mexico. Awesome. So I did that for a while, faculty. Then I moved over to the Behavior Analyst Certification Board, where I was director of the ethics department there for a while. Did some more consulting after that, had a role at APBA, and then stepped away from that. And really like the opportunity to work at PTB, as you know, Donna, because you literally are PTB. So I'm not telling you anything new, but really the opportunity to do work with PTB came from just sort of, well, it originated from you reaching out to me. We had some connections in the past, and I think at a conference you were like, hey, can we grab coffee? And then we just stayed in touch and chatted about lots of things and did some fun stuff and really like helped each other with work things, but never worked formally together. So like you would be a sounding board for me or vice versa, whatever. And then I think when I let you know I was stepping away from the from APBA, you were like, well, would this interest you? And I said, yes, it would. And so that's kind of how it all came to be. So really just an opportunity to work with a really amazing behavior analyst and a really cool team, continuing to support the profession that I love. So.
Well, this is just, I'm kind of looking at this as like a 40-hour-a-week coffee date. That's what this is for me, getting to do this with you. Well, I know that, I know the team was incredibly excited because you're very well known to us, and because you've hung around a little bit with me here and there. But for me, it's such an honor. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to some of the cool things we're going to do, and we can talk about that in a second. But I do want to kind of talk a little bit about why this idea of Scholar-in-Residence was sort of bounced around and seemed, like a brilliant idea. I think anytime, you're creating content, and especially academic content, it's always great to have someone, check your work and be an extra set of eyes, and sort of like an on-staff peer reviewer, brainstorming and coming up with new ideas. And the world, is changing, and people learn differently than they even did 5 years ago. And so exploring some of the, not just the new technologies that are available to us now, but also just exploring the way people learn now because of different technologies. And it is just so much more fun and probably valid, right? When you have some IOA and someone else there, especially someone with your level of experience, just bringing something new to the table. And for me, I love to learn. And I've learned from you for years about not just ABA, but life stuff. And now it's just exciting to be able to have you as a bouncing board and to learn, to continue to learn from you. So this is going to be a really exciting chapter, I think, for PTB, because you are going to bring so much, stuff to the table that we might not have explored before. All right. Well, before people ask you questions, I wanted to I wanted to ask you a few questions, and this really has to do with, some of the questions I hear from students a lot, and then one is my own question for you. So the first question is really about a question I get all of the time. I'm on the phone all week long with students, and the biggest thing that I hear most regularly is, people calling who have taken the exam and not passed the exam multiple times. And the question is, what should I do? Now, I have some theories about how to figure that out with some self-monitoring, blah, blah, blah. But if that question gets asked of you, what's the number one or the best bit of advice you can give to a student who's either taking the exam for a second time or just struggling in general?
Well, I mean, first of all, I would probably say would defer to someone like you with much more experience coaching folks through and getting to also hear the after, like, how did it go and what worked and what didn't work. But I would say that my first response to anybody saying I didn't, I got to retake it, I didn't pass. I think the most important piece of advice is to be kind to yourself, right? There's no point in actively engaging in self-deprecation and beating yourself up, in telling yourself you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, or anything like that. Now, we can't control our thoughts, and I tend to be pretty hard on myself, so I can imagine how the things that would be kind of rolling around in my head if I were in that situation. So I'm not suggesting don't have those thoughts because you can't control them. I'm just saying maybe be gentle with them, like hold them lightly, let them pass through your mind. Don't invite them in, sit down and stay with them forever because they're just thoughts. That's
exactly. All. I love that. I agree. You have to sort of take that moment on because it happened, and it sucks to get a score report that has those awful 4 letters that are not the letters you went in for. But after you take the time to be with your feelings, I think push on and do everything you can to, well, just that, push on. Well, so speaking of not passing the exam, one of the things that comes up a lot is that there's a lot of stuff on the TCO that some students don't have context for. It might not be, related to their particular job in the field. And it's not always just, experimental design. Obviously, that's an obvious. Most people aren't in a lab working, but there are other things. Some people have never done an FA or they've never done extinction in, combination with other treatments for whatever reason. And so they don't have context. What advice would you give for someone who needs to contextualize some of the stuff on the TCO?
Yeah. I think my first piece of advice I would give it to people well before they're ever prepping to take the exam, when they are in graduate school and when they are accruing their fieldwork experience hours, which is, is that happening for you? Are the people responsible for developing your repertoires? Are they doing that for you? Are your professors connecting the content from research articles or from Cooper, Heron, and Hewitt or whatever your textbook is to real world examples? Is your supervisor doing that for you in the workplace? And that's kind of like, that's where it really ought to start. For those people that didn't have that or didn't have it for everything in the TCO, I think there are a couple of things you can do. I think one, you can look for opportunities. Maybe there's another clinic somewhere else within your workspace that does do the things that you aren't quite, I don't know what an FA looks like, or I've never seen a multiple schedule or whatever, right? Like maybe there is a clinic or work happening within your workspace where those procedures are being implemented, and maybe you can go there if it's not too far away, or you can see if you can observe remotely, or you can connect with other people. If nobody in your work. So maybe there's another organization. Maybe you can reach out to a former professor. So for example, when I was at Utah State, I had a research lab and a clinic where we focused on assessing and treating severe problem behavior. And pretty much all we did were FAs, demand assessments, preference assessments, reinforcer assessments, FCT, fairly consistent with what you will read in a research article. And I never had anybody reach out and say, hey, could I like remotely view an FA? What would that take? Because I've never seen one. But if someone did, I would work really, really hard to make sure I could make that happen, and ensuring confidentiality and all of those kinds of things. But, you know, like ask. And then I think, you know, maybe you could do a little bit of get on YouTube and see if you could identify some reliable, high quality resources. That's the difficulty once you start being a keyboard warrior and start doing any kind of searching, is sometimes it's hard to know if what you're consuming is high quality or not. But, and then outside of that, if none of those are feasible for you and you can't even just talk it through, you know, like you can't reach out to a colleague and say, okay, I've never seen an FA. Could we just role play one? If that's not an option for you, you can read the literature and try to visualize it or role play it yourself. Grab some friends who aren't behavior analysts, do it with your dog, like whatever, but do something to make it tangible for you so that you sort of see or feel what it looks like.
Yeah, that's really great advice. I think it discourages people. And one of the things I try to inspire students to do, and I don't know if maybe that we've talked about this before, because it's very much what you do. If I've ever had a question, you will send me article links and you'll tell me what book I should read. And you always respond with, you know, a place where I can find, you know, substantial information for anything that I might be questioning or just interested in. And I think that's something I try to encourage my students as well to do, is to get out there and research it. Like, it's available. And I know, like, we live in such an amazing time where everything is at our fingertips. So you don't need the context as much. I mean, you do need it. What am I saying? You need the context.
It's hard. You have more
yes,
options.
There's an issue. Exactly. I'm sorry if I laughed in the middle of your thing. I was responding to a comment from Lila talking about how you always give the amazing advice. And I know they shared it a few minutes later, but I couldn't agree more. You are probably the best advice giver of anyone, period. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Leah, on Instagram. That's very, very sweet.
Sweet.
It's very sweet. Okay. I have two more of my own questions.
Okay.
Okay, one more kind of clinical one and one just my own. So I remember when I was studying for this exam, and it's kind of great that you're wearing our ethics.
You can remember back that far, Donna?
I can. I don't remember much anymore, but that I can remember. But I remember the deceptive nature of ethics, and just thinking like, what? I'm going to save that for last. It's ethics. I'm ethical. I can do it. And being kind of discouraged to think that way from other people who kept saying ethics is so hard on the exam. And so that, fortunately, I heard that feedback, and I tried to, like, you know, poo-poo it and just be like, no, it's ethics. I mean, it's intuitive. I know what's ethical and what's not. And I'm so glad I took that advice, because I do remember it being difficult. And that theme. Now, I've been doing PTB for 12 years, and that doesn't include 100 years before that when I was studying for this exam. What has not changed is that people freak out about the ethics content. Why is it so hard?
Why is it so hard?
For people, myself included, by the way, so this is not a judgment.
Part of it is that it's framed in a way you just sort of talked about, right? Ethics is scary, it's boring, it's hard, it's, you know, confusing. And so when we talk about things in that way, we frame them. And so it comes to sort of evoke those sorts of things, right? Yeah. So if I talk about something as horrible and scary and awful and terrible and punishing, you're probably not going to be like, you know what I'd like more of? That ethics, please, right? You're like, oh, ethics. And so I think some of it is that. I think some of it is that it can feel like thinking about and talking about ethics doesn't mesh well with this scientific view that we have just worked so hard in our graduate program to come to understand, which I don't think is right, but I think it can feel that way. I mean, I think from our point of view, we like things to be discrete, objectively, and completely and accurately described. And we want to be able to predict and control, and it can feel like that is absolutely the opposite of ethics, which, you know, it's hard to describe and it's hard to predict, and it's certainly difficult to control. So I think it's sort of just the way we talk about it, the way we think about it, and that it feels so different from what we do as behavior analysts.
I love that. That's a good answer.
Oh.
Okay, this one is just from me. Every time that I'm talking to you, and we talk a lot, and we travel together, and you are always working, and it's never the same thing, and it's always, oh, I'm just sitting here finishing this presentation for this talk, and I just did this, and I just wrote a book. Like, it's always, I've got to finish this chapter, I've got to edit this thing. It's like 24/7. And I know that you love what you do. And before that, all of that was on top of your responsibilities at APBA. Before that, it was on top of all of your responsibilities at the BACB. And in this culture of, you know, burnout and, burnout, what keeps you motivated? What keeps you going? Like, when you wake up in the morning, and I know you get up early, and I know you start early, what gets you to your desk as early as you do and sitting there for as long as you do?
I mean, I'm pumped about the application of our science to the human condition. You know, I think Bear said it best, that there could be a science of human behavior. Like how can that not give you goosebumps? So there's just that, like, core nerd behavior analyst through and through. But I also, I'm not great at self-care, so I probably do work a little more than.
You're always done. Your hair is brushed. You're wearing lipstick. I mean, every time I've hopped on a Zoom, it doesn't matter if it's 7 a.m. or 6 p.m., you're like ready for television.
Well, I don't know about that at all. Literally slept on this hair, so I guess I'm just lucky in that respect. But honestly, the truth is that I surround myself with amazing people, right? I collaborate with people like Dr. Linda LeBlanc and Dr. Nasia Sarancioni-Ulizzi and Donna Meller and Emily Patrizzi and Dr. Sarah Lichtenberger, and just people that are phenomenal and excited about life and the application of our science and think about things creatively. And I get, like, Dr. Lila Sump is on somewhere joining us, and I get to do really fun things with her. And so, you know, like, I don't know. I think there's always going to be the drudgery of our work, always. And so I try to have a few other projects going that kind of get you through, even when you're sort of like, oh, I have to fill out the paperwork, or I have to do the thing that is boring. But when I'm done, I get to review this cool paper that someone submitted, or whatever it might be. And I just think that our science is about being in service, and I really like that.
You said something to me once that I never let go of, and I even quote you. You said that behavior analysis is a way of life. And I don't know why that just like landed with me, and it changed. Well, it's like, I guess I knew that, but I really started to know that. But I feel like you apply this level of effort and energy, not just to your work, but you're an incredibly conscientious friend. And I've seen you be an incredibly conscientious mom and wife. And I love when you're like, I'm going to finish this paper, and then I'm going to take Adam out for enchiladas. It's like, that's wild. I'm like, I'm going to finish this paper and I'm going to bed. And I hope Mark doesn't come upstairs because I'm going to watch The Housewives by myself.
I did literally just take my husband out for enchiladas because he had a deep cleaning and his teeth weren't feeling good. And he was like, Mexican sounds good. So I was like, Donna, I have to take Adam out for enchiladas.
But I feel like that's not the first time. Well, anyway, I don't know if anyone out there has any questions, and I know we're fielding them from different platforms. So maybe someone at PTB could let us know if there is anything, but if not, that's okay too, because I wanted to do a little round of something. Is there anything?
No.
I know. I mean, I'm prepared because I was like, I don't care if there aren't any questions. I got them. I got all of them. Anything out there, PTB team? Maybe we already said all the things. All right. Well, just in the interest of time, I'm just going to do a couple of, a fun Q&A, if you don't mind. So this is going to be 8 questions.
Okay, the Ocho. Let's do this.
All right. Coffee or tea while studying or working?
Both.
One song you blast before a big day?
Nothing comes to mind.
I bet it's Brazilian covers.
Bossa Nova.
Bossa Nova. Tyra, we have not stopped listening to Brazilian covers since we came back.
That is true. Let's see. I don't. Sometimes I put on chill music while I'm working, but I don't usually need a song to pump me up. But when I'm going for a walk and I kind of want to just like be chilling, I'm an 80s girl, 70s, 80s girl. So I usually listen to The Cure.
Okay. All right. Okay. So you actually know The Cure. I remember wearing a Cure t-shirt, but never having heard any of their music. Poser, total poser. Okay. One role that you would use, one word that you would use to describe your role here at PTB. Just curious what you think you're doing.
Inspiring.
Oh, yes. Done. You've already earned your keep. Okay. Real Housewives of Salt Lake City or Beverly Hills?
Salt Lake City, they scrappy. Yes, definitely. Salt Lake City. Plus, I lived in Utah I did a lot of time in Utah. So Salt Lake
Those are your people. Okay. Well, we all know you love a tattoo.
What?
What? Black and white tattoos or color tattoos?
I mean, I have a few that are just ink only, but mostly color. So I'm going to go with color.
Yeah, because you're always getting hearts and flowers. Okay, you're infamously known to be a vegetarian. So Beyond Burger or Impossible Burger?
I haven't done like a side-by-side taste test. I did read some information that suggested that Beyond had sort of like fewer ingredients than Impossible. So maybe I would lean that way, but I'm not mad at either. I wouldn't be like, I'm sorry, Donna, I can't eat that Impossible Burger. Take it away and make me a Beyond. Like I would accept either.
Yes, you're very affable. Okay, 2 more. If anyone's been to a conference, they've seen you on the dance floor, and I know how you feel about hip hop and rap music. So East Coast or West Coast?
West Coast all the way, baby. All right. California girl.
Okay, and last question, and this one is, this is important to me. What is your favorite Broadway play?
Awesome. Well, I had the opportunity to take in an amazing play with Dr. Bridget Taylor of Alpine Learning, who huge love to her. She's been an inspiration my entire career. And we saw Kinky Boots, and it was amazing.
And that's a good answer. That's a great show. I like that one too. Well, I guess we can probably start to wind this down. Tyra, do you have anything you want to say or add? Or I don't know if there's any questions.
I would like to point out that we do have a comment that that your book, Donna, is like a BACB task list Bible. And that is a really kind thing to say.
I mean, I always thought of myself as biblical, but no. Well, thank you. That is a very kind thing to say. Yeah, I definitely put a lot into it, and I'm so excited for all the things you're going to be adding to it, or taking out of it. I don't know.
I mean, honestly, there's not much to do. It's in amazing shape. And so, like, me coming into PTB isn't fix anything. It's just kind of how do we put more frosting on an already frosted cake?
Oh, that's so nice. I thought it was just somebody's got to, entertain Donna. Oh, we have some questions.
Yeah, we have some questions. What about a general comment, competent and practice? How do you help connect someone to their gap? About scope of competence. Maybe that's what you're asking. Well, if the question is, how do you help someone identify what is within their scope of competence? I think that is working on engaging in some self-reflection, some self-observation, some self-evaluation of some inputs and outputs. So how long has it been since I had training or instruction on something? How was it high quality? Those sorts of things. And then the outputs. Do I have data to suggest that I can consistently and with a high degree of accuracy engage in this thing that produces the desired outcome? Or do I maybe have some data that suggests I'm not so great at it, or maybe I'm good at it sometimes, but not others, or maybe I'm good at it with some support, but not independently. And so I think it's kind of just talking about all of those different things. So you could think about doing that sort of assessment for specific technologies, like different skill acquisition methodologies or assessment procedures, or other areas like ethics or problem solving or interpersonal skills. And that should happen pretty regularly for newer practitioners. And then after that, I think you can kind of build out your professional development plan. And shout out to APBA, who actually has a scope of competence toolkit, if you're a member, that you can access and download, and it will walk you through some of those assessments. So hopefully that was helpful.
Also, hi, CJ. Thanks for being here. Yeah, I love that answer. I think the biggest thing is, not to look for shortcuts in your learning. That's, and hopefully you have supervision that prevents that, and hopefully you have good coursework. But if you don't, then you should especially find more, applied examples on your own, and not through shortcuts. Like, I hate to say it, but not through the manual. Like, before the manual, get it from, the actual source material, and then comes the manual for the review.
And the goal isn't to know everything, right? The goal is to know some stuff really, really well. And it's okay if you don't know the other stuff eventually, right? In practice.
Yeah. Okay. Looks like Doreen wants to know, she gets fairly severe test taking anxiety. Any tips for dealing with anxiety?
I mean, I think remembering to breathe is a good one. Some deep breaths, box breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, any of those kind of breathing strategies will have an immediate effect on your physiology, which you can't like blood pressure lower, right? But if you take deep breaths, you actually will be able to calm that system down. And that's probably an important first step. I think practicing under conditions similar to those that you will experience when you take the exam can be really, really helpful. So, if you're always only studying and practicing in like your comfiest clothes, in your comfiest, most familiar place, with your favorite music and your dog by you and all of the things that make you calm, you're probably not setting yourself up for success if you know you have some test anxiety. So I think maybe getting yourself into more and more contexts that mimic what the test conditions will actually be like is probably important. Donna, what about you?
I think as someone who does struggle with anxiety, I find, even as an actor, I had, this theory about this, where the more prepared you are, the less your anxiety is going to take you down. So preparation does not get rid of it, because it really is a high stakes moment. I think having some level of anxiety, and I don't mean clinical diagnostic anxiety, I just mean how we all sort of loosely talk about it, having an increased heart rate and being excited, yes, exactly. That's to be expected. I mean, I can't imagine anybody just walks in and they're just like, yeah, whatever, I'm just going to answer these 185 questions. But I think when you're super prepared and you're fluent and you can really speak to most of the items on the TCO, your nerves won't get the best of you. Your knowledge will sort of supersede that. And I remember that from, if I was under rehearsed, my anxiety could actually cause me to forget words and to stumble. But if I was very prepared, my anxiety was more of like a propeller. It kind of pushed me forward, and I didn't like it even then, because it was still nerves, and that is uncomfortable for sure, just somatically, like just the physical stuff that happens. But preparation and breathing, which I don't like to breathe, but I think most people do.
And also Lila says calling it excitement instead of anxiety. And that's not from me, Lila. That's actually from Dr. Pat Fryman in his paper about public speaking. He says, and he said that in an interview that we did for another study that we published, he basically says, look, like the physiological responses to anxiety or excitement are almost identical. Sweaty palms, butterflies in your stomach.
Yeah.
So just tacked it differently, tacked it as excitement versus anxiety.
Yep, 4 hours till I'm a board certified behavior analyst. All right, we have another one from Lila. So what are some skills that you think are important for upcoming supervisors? I know this is something you're pretty passionate about, to learn, that will help them be a successful supervisor. Yeah, some skills, yeah.
I mean, I think as they're prepping for the exam, understanding the requirements and the supervision ethics standard, those are really, really important. In practice, how to solicit, receive, implement, and give really great corrective feedback, supportive feedback, praise, and then how to teach other people how to do that. Game changer. Feedback.
Amazing. All right. Well, I mean, I feel like how do you say in this country? That's it. That's the one. If there aren't any more questions, a comment from CJ. Knowing something first, get to
nice. Okay, I like that.
Yeah. I like that. CJ, I feel like you've shared this with me before, right? This is great. That's really great.
And if folks didn't see it, essentially, well, I think you can see it on the screen, right?
Yeah, they put it on the screen. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's great. I think that's a lovely take on how to proceed maybe through those moments of like,
I think that's what's sort of exciting, is there's not really like one formula for how to go from start to finish, in this process. And as long as you just sort of keep reflecting and keep checking in with yourself and pick the steady activities and the schedule that fits your life and it's comfortable for you and looks to be successful as you become more fluent, then there's no one you have to sort of impress with how you go about it. Just everybody arrives at that big pass, differently. And that's what's kind of cool, is there's no one way. It's all individualized. Just like
weird. It matches with the behavior analytic viewpoint.
That's why.
By the way, can we just appreciate my ethics devil and his cute little pot belly? He's so cute. You might recognize him from Donna's manual as the guy that's like reminding you about ethics stuff. But I love my ethics devil.
I think we're going to start selling the devil. Did you see my pigeon?
Yes, I did. I think your pigeon is named Petey, right? PTB?
PD. Yeah. No, PTB.
Yeah, PTB.
Oh, hey. Which one of you is here, Selfie Match Girls? Which one do you like better, the devil or the pigeon? Tyra, do you remember when you were like, why is ethics a devil?
Yeah, I was really mad, everybody. I was like, why ethics gotta be a devil? Come on now. But he's a very cute devil.
He's a cute devil.
And
He's like a little devil.
I love this devil.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. This was really fun for me. I hope I don't have to quit and rejoin PTB just to do this again in the future. So maybe we can have another one of these at some point.
I think we should. I think we should. And we can, in fact, let us know if there's things that you want us to talk about, whether it's TCO items or more, behavior stuff, meaning like study behavior or exam tips and things like that.
Or tattoos.
What?
Or tattoos.
Tattoos. Yes. Yes.
Whatever.
Sure. How about show tunes?
Awesome. How about you can sing some next time?
Next time. Well, thank you all so much for joining in, and thanks to anybody who watches this at a later time. And welcome to PTB, Tyra Sellers.
Oh,
Dr. Tyra Sellers.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thank you, everybody, for showing up, or if you watch this after the fact. And everybody, take good care of yourselves, okay?
Yes. Yes. Now, I don't know how we get out of here, but I guess we'll just sit here till somebody does something to us. Yes.